Alright, so in this lesson, I want to go over the liquid source settings, and we're going to start from a blank scene just so you can see once again how everything is set up from scratch. So let's go into the Create tab, Phoenix FD, and create a liquid sim, and just drag out a simple grid. Now we're going to need something to emit the liquid out of. So let's go under Standard Primitives. I can hit Alt W to make the window full screen, and under Standard Primitives, again, we're going to create a sphere and just make one and raise it up. Now we need to go under Helpers, Phoenix FD, and create a liquid source, and we're going to select it and add the sphere as our liquid source. So this is our basic sort of tap water setup from the first lesson. Now, one thing that I always like to do right away is go into the settings for the simulator, go under Output, and select my cache folder on my SSD drive to save this cache into. So I'm going to do that real quick. So I have that set up, and one thing that I like to do is output the velocity channel. You need to output velocity if you want to render things with motion blur. If you do not output velocity, motion blur will not work even if you enable it in your camera and in the settings here. You have to output velocity. Now what I like to do is go back under grid and maybe give it a little bit more resolution. So I'm going to lower the cell size until I have about maybe 1.5 million total cells. So let's go into the source. So right now we're using the surface force emit mode, meaning that the liquid will be emitted from the surface of the sphere along the normals of the individual polygons. So if I hit start, you can see that the liquid is being discharged at equal force from basically each polygon of the sphere, and it's being affected by gravity, so it falls down. Now I can change this outgoing velocity to 100, and then the liquid will be ejected at much higher speed, and there will be more liquid emitted as a result. Another thing we can do is raise this noise here. This is a very sensitive value, but as you can see, the simulation right now is very uniform. It looks very CG. So by raising the noise to 1, let me show you what will happen. So I'll just hit stop and start again. And you can see that basically it adds this randomization so that in certain spots, the liquid is being emitted at a much stronger force than others. So as you can see, this is a very strong effect. So let me reduce the outgoing velocity maybe to 25 and reduce the noise to 0.5, just so we get something more subtle. So now we have this pretty nice irregular flow, and the noise is being applied over time so that it acts more like a natural sort of waterfall style simulation instead of being so uniform. So like I said, right now we are still in the default surface mode, but there are 3 modes we can use. The next one is volume brush, and it says in brush mode only non-solid emitters can be used. Would you like to convert the selected emitters, which is the sphere, into a non-solid? And I'm gonna say yeah. So basically what's happening is if you right click on any of your object, you have these Phoenix FD properties, and you can make an object either solid or not solid. Right now we want it to be not a solid object because in the volume brush mode, it can only handle non-solid object. If it is a solid object, it means that the liquid will interact with it and it will bounce off of it. But volume brush means that it will basically fill the volume of your object with liquid, and it will do so on every frame. So right now we have the brush effect at 100%, which translates into 100% of the sphere will be filled with liquid on each frame. So let me show you how that works if I run the simulation. So as you can see, on every frame, the entire inside of the sphere gets filled 100%, and the liquid falls out. Now we still have noise applied at 0.5, so let me make that 0. And now it will be a much more uniform flow. So let me run that again. So you can see we almost get this perfect sphere, and then it sort of just keeps on falling. So this is a very useful emit mode, because if I make this 100, I can basically go to frame 0, set a keyframe at 100, and then go to frame 1 and make this 0 and set a keyframe, disable auto key, and then I can run the simulation. And basically what I've created is just one sphere of water, and we can use this to fall on the ground, create all sorts of fun splashes, create droplets, collisions further in this course, and other simulations like that. So this is a very useful emit mode to use. And the third emit mode is volume inject, and it will basically inject the sphere, the inside of it, with liquid, but with added power. So with brush mode, you can only ever fill the sphere fully, but you cannot sort of force more liquid in. With volume inject, you control how much liquid is being injected inside of the sphere with this number. So if I make it 50, and I delete this keyframe so that it remains 50, and I run the simulation, you can see we basically get an explosion because the liquid is being injected into the sphere at this force. So maybe let's just make it 10 and just see what will happen then. And we get something that looks more like this. So the inject mode is ideal for explosion effects of both smoke, fire, and liquids, to basically have the liquid explode from all sides based on this inject power.